information is intimidating, including map goals, the whereabouts of their friends, who's shooting them with what weapon, and so on. We didn't have any way to make all of this information visual, so first we had to prioritize and come up with an essential list of things every player needed to know in order to just have fun. Information they could learn by playing the game, such as map layout, was of secondary importance, but there was also information, such as the medic's invulnerability charge, that would be completely invisible unless we exposed it. We tried to avoid attaching 2D elements to the HUD as much as possible, since we wanted players to be looking at the 3D world we'd built rather than some abstract representation. For example, players always see their own team's spies as a spy, but they need to know how that spy is disguised to the other team. We first tried a quick hack where we put an icon representing the spy's current disguise, floating above his head. This icon proved baffling to playtesters. When we tackled the problem by putting cut-out paper masks on the spy, it not only fit the humorous style of the game, it let players get all the pertinent information directly from a quick look at the spy's model, thus keeping them focused on the characters and on the action of the game. We took this as a lesson in how holding ourselves to a strong design principle can often force us to come up with better solutions than if we'd taken the easy route.
To achieve a style of character shading which is consistent with the early 20th century commercial illustrations that influenced our art direction, we alter the diffuse lighting on characters. Here we can see the heavy weapons guy as he appears in Team Fortress 2, using this type of shading style. Note the tight transition between the light and dark sides of the skin on his upper arm. Using a traditional shading model, as seen here, the character lighting appears too soft and lacks the distinctive look seen in hand-painted illustrations. Our shading model, however, captures the dramatic transition between light and dark and helps to define the unmistakable look of Team Fortress 2. Another facet of illustrative shading is the use of rim highlights to accentuate the silhouettes of characters. Without the rim lighting, the characters tend to blend into the scenery. With the rim lighting, which you can see specifically on the heavy's shoulders, neck, and head in this example, our characters are visible against the rest of the scene and better fit the art style of Team Fortress 2.
Two-dimensional HUD elements present a particular art problem because they have to look good and sharp no matter what resolution the user is running their game at. Given today's availability of high-resolution widescreen displays, this can require a lot of texture memory and a lot of work anticipating different display resolutions. The problem for Team Fortress 2 was even more daunting because of our desire to include a lot of smooth, curved elements in our HUD. We developed a new shader system for drawing line art images. The system allows us to create images at a fixed resolution that produce smooth silhouettes even when scaled up to a very high resolution. This shader system also handles outlining and drop shadows and can be applied in the 3D space to world elements such as signs.
We intended Team Fortress 2 to feature many special particle effects to enhance the wide variety of weapons and class abilities. In previous versions of the source engine, all particle effects required that custom code be written by the programmers. For Team Fortress 2, we created a system where designers can rapidly create new particle systems and iteratively refine existing ones without programmer involvement. An in-game editor allows designers to edit the definitions of particle systems and immediately preview effects in the game itself. The editor also allows artists to connect modular effect building blocks to create complex visual effects. As for the particle system itself, we have offloaded many of the system calculations to the graphics accelerator, which allows us to increase the number of particles on screen without reducing the frame rate.
Once we had a handle on the art direction for our world and characters, we turned our attention to the weapons and gadgets. While these objects have some grounding in reality, they usually diverge in significant ways. For instance, the soldier's rocket launcher fits the general mold of a shoulder-mounted rocket launcher, but somehow manages to hold 4 rockets in a clip. To justify this and play up our stylized spy-tech fiction, we designed the weapons to look like customized pieces of hardware, personalized and modified by each character to suit his own ends. In keeping with the industrial theme of the game, we looked to 60s-era product design principles for our primary weapons, then focused on musical instruments for secondary and melee weapons, thinking these would reinforce the connection between the secondary items and each character's personality.
When designing areas for high levels of combat, we try to avoid complexity and chaos. Complex geometry confuses players, making it hard for them to track enemies and interfering with their movement and aiming during combat. The most chaotic combat tends to occur when the size of the room fails to support the number of players fighting in it. In this final area of the map, we wanted a free-form battle to rage for some time before anyone could achieve a decisive victory. To achieve this, we built a wide open area with several entrances and gave players a variety of attack and defense options at various heights. Rather than depend on elevators and ladders, we relied on ramps, since these allow freedom of movement at all times instead of confining players. Through playtesting, we made many changes to the dimensions of the room, the size of cover elements, and the size of the entrances, thus ensuring the area could accommodate a battle of many players.
Unlike maps in Team Fortress such as Two Fort and Well, which have their respective blue and red sides, Hydra's 4 main arenas can be owned by one team or the other. We needed an overall theme that justified structures like rock walls and tunnels, but which also had a neutral color scheme. We chose a desert theme with a palette of a reddish-brown rock, cool blue sky, and neutral light colors that complement the surrounding area. The colors of the separate areas vary slightly, but still key together.
The announcer for Team Fortress 2, Ellen McLean, has the rare distinction of being the only voice actor to perform in all the products in the orange box. For a role in Team Fortress 2, we had Ellen try various reads on the same lines, letting her ad-lib different personalities. On the 5th try, she came up with the winner. Her disappointed and slightly angry evil overlord clearly lets you know, in the world of Team Fortress 2, a tie does not mean everyone wins, but that everyone loses.
This area presented a difficult problem. Since the arena is primarily an interior, there wasn't much we could do to alter its basic structure, so we concentrated on careful management of the interior shapes to create an iconic space. The building is essentially a box with big rectangular windows, contrasted by round elements, such as the generators, in the center. To create depth and parallax, we added linear elements such as railings and cables. We used contrasting values of dark and light on the floor with brightly lit walkways to create an interesting value pattern. All these elements work together to draw the player's eye to the flag, which must always be the focal point of the arena.
You failed!